These are the player power rankings then for the forwards on this particular video, going position by position, and then overall in the forwards, who are the best rugby players on earth. This changes all the time. The charts go up and down, stock rises, stock falls. These are my opinions. I want yours as well in the comments. Thank you for watching. I'm Tim. This is Egg Chasers. Let's begin with Loosehead Prop. And these are the top 10 looseheads on earth as I see them right now. Obviously, some players haven't played since the autumn. In the case of Southern Hemisphere nations, the Northern Hemisphere teams, a lot of them are involved in the Six Nations right now, and that affects things. So this is my opinion, like I say. You may disagree. So that's what the comments are for. Let me know. But I just think this is quite interesting. We have the players, the teams that are assessed in terms of their world ranking, and they get announced every month. But what about the players? Well, let's have a look. And Pierre Schoeman has got himself on the top 10 list. Some really good performances for Scotland. He looks solid at scrum time and does a lot of work around the park. He's been really good for Edinburgh so far this season, so he's on the list. Cyril Bay at number 7. He's probably one of the players that his stock has fallen a little bit. He has not been at the level that he has been previously, and that's probably goes for France, who is still an exceptional rugby team. They just came up against an unstoppable force in the case of Ireland last weekend. But yeah, Cyril Bay, not quite the dominant loosehead performance that we've seen. And Danny Priso, one of the players that France are missing, and he's on the list at number 8. I think partly as a result of the fact that you can see that they are missing him. There's a little bit of a drop-off in terms of that position. I love Thomas Gallo for Argentina at number 6. 23-year-old, I think he is. Big unit. Try-scoring machine as well from Loosehead Prop. He's a rising star. As is Ethan de Groot, really established now at international level. Got a lot of time for him. Massive unit as well. Ellis Genge, this was an interesting one. I wasn't sure quite where to put Ellis Genge because a loosehead prop, you can do as many incredible little tip-on passes. Ellis Genge did one for a good try against Italy at the weekend. You can have as many barnstorming runs, and Ellis Genge does several of those every game. But then if your set piece is not quite right, as a loosehead prop, that's where you're going to be judged. And we saw against South Africa in the autumn, England creaked in the scrum when Ellis Genge came up against Franz Malherbe and co. So, yeah, I think Ellis Genge should be aiming at the very top of that list, and he has the potential to be the best loosehead prop on earth. At the moment, I'd put him just outside the top 3, mainly because the set-piece work of Oxenche and Stephen KITSHOFF for South Africa is just immense. And they're great. 2 great players. 2 South African loosehead props in the top 3. Not a surprise, given the reputation of South Africa. Andrew Porter at number 2. He is a guy that has answered some critics because there was some question marks around his set piece. He's been absolutely awesome. A massive man. I really, really love him. And he can play both sides of the scrum, which is just invaluable, especially in a World Cup year. Moving on to hooker. And those 3 names at the top of the top 10 hookers, I'll just get out the way of the names, there you go, are some of my favourite rugby players on earth. Malcolm Marx, Julien Montoya, and Julien Marchand are amazing. They're really similar. All-action hookers, brilliant ball carriers. All 3 of them incredible at the jackal. They could be legitimate open-side flankers, but their set piece are brilliant. Those top 3 are in another league all of their own. But Dan Sheehan of Ireland and is very much like Cody Taylor, a different type of hooker, very much more mobile, could be outside in the outside channels. You could almost imagine him playing at inside centre. He's that kind of a player. So Cody Taylor and Dan Sheehan, 2 I really like, 4 and 5. Bongi and Banambi, Piato Malvaca, backup players for 2 of the best teams on earth, South Africa and France. And in the case of Malvaca, again, another player France are without at the moment, and you really feel like they're missing him. Samsoni Takiaho, Dane Coles, I'm imagining, will come back into the frame when he's fit and gets a good run of it. He's had a lot of injuries, a lot of time out. I love Dane Coles, but Takiaho is a pretty brutal guy. George Turner sneaks into the top 10 for Scotland. Some really good performances from him, establishing himself as the number 1 in a very competitive area for Scotland at hooker. And I've got Luke Cowan-Dickey on there. See, Jamie George is starting for England at the moment, but I really think, and some people would have Jamie George as England's number 1 choice hooker, Personally, and this is my opinion, like I say, I wouldn't. I love Luke Cowan-Dickie, and I think he's a ferocious player. When he's fit and when he's playing, when he's on his game, he should be looking up that list to more towards the top 5. We will see. There's my thoughts on hooker as we move to tight head prop. And those top 2 teams in the world, top 3 teams in the world, all have good tight head props. Who thought? Who knew? See, there was only 5 scrums in the Ireland v France game at the weekend. France only had 1 scrum of their own. Weenie Antonio, as a result, with 46 minutes ball in playtime, was gassed. Absolutely gassed. And I think that's the message. When you play France, probably when you play South Africa as well, move those big bodies around. And Ireland managed to do that to great effect, even without Ty Furlong, who is a guy who has shown he can play 80 minutes of test match rugby, and he can put in a lot of work outside of the scrum, which is why he's at number 1. But Weenie Antonio, Franz Malherbe, incredible set-piece players, big, massive units. I really like Terrell Lomax at number 4 for New Zealand. Really like him. Another Georgian prop in the top 10 list. And bearing in mind, there's always been jokes down the years about Australia's scrummaging. I remember England back in the day, we always used to salivate at the prospect of our scrum going up against Australia. But no Englishman on that tight head prop list. And I think I could probably get to number 20, well, maybe 15 before you'd consider Carl Sinclair, because England just do not have strength in depth and top end talent right now. Carl Sinclair, great player, but not operating as he did a few years ago. So no Englishman on the top 10 and 2 Aussies. Demba Bamba, another player France are missing. And I think that you can see that they're missing him. And I like Xander Fagerson. Gives away a few penalties, but he's back for Scotland and in the top 10 as well. So there we go. There's tight head prop as we move on to locks. One of the most competitive positions. My player power rankings for second row have Eben Etzebeth at number 1. Brodie Retallick, Cameron Woki and Paul Willemse. Another player France are missing. And suddenly, with the players I've mentioned already, you start to build a picture of maybe don't judge France completely on their performance in Dublin at the weekend. A lot of people wondering if the wheels are starting to come off the French juggernaut that they were building. Well, there's a fair few players out that could have something to do with that. Cameron Woki is amazing. And that second row partnership is right up there with Paul Willemse. Real balance to it. And I'm not sure Thibaut Flamont is quite the player Cameron Woki is. So France have been missing him. Tadgh Byrne, immense for Ireland. Maro Itoje at number 6. Who would have thought that? I think that's a justified position. Maybe you disagree. Maro Itoje saw glimpses against Scotland of him just being an absolute menace. Like a horrible player to play against in the best possible way when he's on your team. He started to see that again, and Maro Itoje should be in the top 2 or 3, no question. Lou Diaga, James Ryan, Grant Gilchrist, who that guy does some work, and Franco Moster, and keep an eye on Richie Gray, because he's back now, he's fit, and he's playing brilliantly for Scotland, and if he keeps performing like he has done in the last 2 games, he could well make an appearance in the top 10, but some big names not on that top 10, but that's how competitive the second row position is in World Rugby right now. As we move to the back row and blindside flanker, and I think it's important for me to point out that I've only considered players in one position. For example, there's an argument that Pablo Matera, where would I put Pablo Matera of Argentina? I'd probably put him number 2 on this particular list, but he's playing number 8 for Argentina at the moment, so that's where I've considered him for this. This is people that are playing international blindside flanker. Peter Steph Toy obviously wears 7. That's how South Africa do it, but plays 6. Courtney Laws, England have been missing him, I feel. There is some people wondering, will he actually make the starting 15 when he comes back? I think he will. I think he should. I think he's incredible. I love Courtney Laws. Anthony Gelonch, Jamie Ritchie, quietly brilliant. Like, not incredible at anything, but very, very good at lots of things, and add leadership to his repertoire as well. And he's doing a really good job for Scotland. Juan Martin Gonzalez, love watching him play. Rangy, athletic player. Sebastian Negri. Oh man, I tell you what. In terms of a sort of dust up, I reckon Sebastian Negri or Peter Steph Toy would be the the two winners of that if you had a big Royal Rumble. Sebastian Negri is a hard man. I really like him. Peter Romani, I was. If you'd asked me a few weeks ago, I might have considered no Peter Romani in the top 10, but looked good for Ireland the last couple of weeks. Sekou Makalu, he's just a fun player, isn't he? On the bench for France most of the time. Might pop up on the wing, but explosive when he's in the back row, so that's why he's there. And two Kiwis to finish it off, Shannon Frizzell and Akira Ioane. I'm not quite sure New Zealand have nailed down exactly who their starting back row is. Maybe that's reflected by the fact there's a couple of names there, both good players, but hard to know exactly what the pecking order. Open side flanker then. By the way, if you're still watching this at the moment and you haven't already hit subscribe, please do hit subscribe, and we'll get into open side flanker, which, there you go. Tommy Raffel's on the list at number 10. Might be a surprise to some people. I think he's done really well for Wales, and I think they should persist with him. Wales not in a good place, and hardly any players have feet. In fact, Tommy Raffel's the first Welsh player that's featured in the power rankings so far. I think he's a really good player. And Justin Tipuric, I think he's the past. Great player. Tommy Rafell, I think, is the future. And he reminds me a little bit of Michael Hooper at number 2. Just that sort of low centre of gravity. Just always getting his head in ugly places other people won't. Gets bashed and bruised for it. But he's a quality player. Michele Lamaro. Charles Olivon at number 8 for France should be higher. He's not playing as well as he has done, so I'm hoping he recovers some of his form, because I love that guy. Dalton Papali'i, will he keep that 7 shirt over Sam Cane? I suspect he probably will, or will he be shifted to 6? We will see when Sam Cane's back and fit, but Dalton Papali'i, got a lot of time for him. Tom Curry at number 6, another English player that a few years ago would have been much, much higher, but hasn't been operating at that level. Is that due to the team, or is that partly individual? I guess time will tell on that front, but selfishly, I want to see Tom Curry up that list, but I can't justify it right now. Sia Khaleesi at number 5. I think he answered some critics. Some people think he's, or some people focus more on his leadership and his character, but in the autumn, against England in particular, my goodness, he was good. He was really good. So he's at number 5. Hamish Watson, not available for Scotland right now, and he'll be coming back into an established, excellent performing Scottish team, and he will improve them even more. Hamish Watson at 4. Marcus Kremer, love him, for Argentina. Michael Hooper, and World Player of the Year. So no surprise, number 1 at open side flanker, Josh van der Flier. World number 1 team, World Player of the Year, number 1 on the open side flanker power rankings. Finally then, number 8. This was hard. This was really tough. Let's start at the bottom and tick those ones off. Jack Conan on the bench for Ireland, but he's great when he comes on. I really like him. Matt Fagerson has been excellent. He put like 27 tackles against England. He can carry as well. He can jump in the line out. He's a real all-rounder that's performing brilliantly. Bobby Valentini, Taulupe Faletau, one of those players that's dropping down the list. Will he drop further down in the coming weeks, or will he be rocketing back up to where he will feel he should be? We will see. That Taulupe Faletau is one to watch. Obviously, Kazuki Himeno, he's not going to have a chance to go up or down for a few months yet, but class operator for Japan whenever he plays. Into the top 5. Jasper Wiese at 5. Gregory Aldrit at 4. That's a drop for him. He probably would have been, this time last year, number 2, with the consideration of being number 1. But he got shown, well, we saw the head-to-head at the weekend, one of many brilliant matchups. Caelan Doris was above him, was better than him. And Gregory Aldrit will come back, I've no doubt about that. But Caelan Doris, number 2. Pablo Matera, love him, at number 3 for Argentina. Still got, Caelan Doris is right on the heels of Ardie Savea, and I found this a really hard one to pick. I just had to stick with Ardie Savea because he hasn't had the chance to play, where Caelan Doris, who has been magnificent. And you should, if you look at my video in the channel on my predictions for who will be player of the tournament, I predicted Gary Ringrose, I predicted Caelan Doris. In the case of Doris, he is on course to be player of the Six Nations, having an amazing time of it. And number 2 to Ardie Savea. So the final thing I'm going to do, in terms of the forwards, is take all of those players wearing shirts 1 to 8, and now pick the top 10 forwards in international rugby, regardless of position. and I want to know your thoughts on this. There's my top 10. Eben Etzebeth, I think he has been that good. And I think if you asked international coaches they could just pick a player to take from another side and put it in their team, I reckon most international coaches would go Eben Etzebeth straight away. Because even if you've got reasonable second rows, he's that much better than anybody else right now. And he's just an enforcer, a intimidator. He's just awesome. So deserved number 1. Ardy Surveyor, just a baller at number 2. Peter Steph-Toy at 3. Missed a bit of rugby, but we know the class he's got. Caelan Doris, I've got him 4 overall in the world right now, which says a lot about his meteoric rise, because he's above those 2 hookers that I absolutely love, Malcolm Marks and Julien Montoya, and he's above the World Player of the Year, his teammate Josh van der Flier at 7, Julian Marchand at 8, Pablo Matera at 9, and TADGH Furlong, number 10. Those, in my humble opinion, are the best forwards in the world right now. So tell me what you think of that, what you think of the position ones. I will obviously have a video coming very soon in terms of the backs. So if you want to get ahead, give me a few thoughts on your back power rankings. Leave those in the comments as well. Thank you for watching. I appreciate the channel growing really quickly, and I'm really happy about that. And that's thanks to you. I'm Tim, this is Egg Chasers, and I'll see you on the next video.